What's going on, guys? This is episode 100, and I just want to make a quick note before we started. I want to thank every guest I have had on. There's been some really notable shows that I actually learned a lot about somebody that I thought I knew. I want to thank all of you guys who watch and support me and support the show and leave comments and leave suggestions and just, wholeheartedly watch the show every week and support it. So thank you, guys. It's episode 100 is almost 2 years in, and the goal for this show when I started it was just to create a positive vibe in the bodybuilding world. Let the bodybuilders be who they are, and let you all see them for who they really are, and all their faults and all their positives and everything, just being as real as possible. And that was the goal of the show. And I'm completely flattered at how it's been received and how it is changed a lot of people's lives. I get the DMs every day, and I just want to say thank you, and that's it. I just want to say thank you, guys, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And I put all my passion into this podcast. I think it's almost taken the place of my bodybuilding career in a way, but everything I have goes into it, and I really try my hardest to make it something special. And I want to thank you guys who watch and who recognize that. And I'll shut up now, and episode 100 is next. What's going on, everybody? We're back with the Real Bodybuilding Podcast, and this is episode 100. And I am honored to have six-time Mr.Olympia Dorian Yates on with me today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on number 100 then.
Yeah, it's a special one for me. I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and like I said before, I think I've messaged you a few times, but you're the shadow. You're hard to get a hold of, so I'm happy that we finally are able to get you on.
I got to be a little elusive, to live up to that name. But
is that part of your mystique? Because I know, I started bodybuilding probably after you had already retired, but you were one of the guys I looked up to when I started, because the whole work ethic, but you always had this mysterious persona about you. Is that done on purpose, or is that just?
No, it's just it was just me being me, and it kind of turned into an image and a persona, but it was not anything contrived or planned or anything. For somebody that was attracted to bodybuilding, I was quite shy and reserved, I think, when I was younger. And I didn't particularly like the limelight. For me, the contest was just kind of one day of the year, a goal that I was aiming for, a showcase to show everybody what I'd done. Mm-hmm. But most of the time I kept covered up. I got the nickname The Shadow from Peter McGough, who was a British journalist, who then he went on to work for Weider and edit Flex and Muscle and Fitness and everything as well.
Yeah.
Because I just trained in a small gym, kept myself covered up all the time, didn't seek any publicity or favors, and I'd turn up at the contest, win the contest, and kind of disappear again. So that's where the moniker The Shadow came from in the first place.
Why do you think you didn't? I mean, I know it sounds to me like you're an introvert, and is that what kind of attracted you to bodybuilding?
Naturally, yeah. I mean, over the years of being exposed and doing appearances and speaking and traveling and stuff, I got a lot more comfortable with it. But as a young man, yeah, I was an introvert. I didn't like really doing interviews or talking and that kind of stuff. I just like training and trying to improve myself and challenge myself. That's what it was all about for me. So it was a little bit different from the average kind of personality that maybe is attracted to bodybuilding because they like the exposure. I didn't really like it. I still really don't. I'm quite a private person, but it's necessary to a degree, in the business of things.
Yeah. When I started, I tell people that the reason I started bodybuilding wasn't to be a pro. It was I wanted to kind of hide from people, and I felt like the gym was one place I could go, and it was like me by myself. So
yeah.
Is that something you felt like when you went down?
Me against myself, kind of some kind of self-mastery, that I could overcome these things. And I probably had a lot of aggression and so on as a young guy. So it was a productive way of getting that out rather than getting into trouble, which I was starting to do when I was younger.
Yeah.
And a lot of people around me were falling into that. So the gym was my kind of sanctuary, almost like a church or something, where I would, for me, lifting weights I do meditation now and yoga, but I understand that I was already doing a meditation, but it was just a different kind. I was doing it with the weights.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, going back to your childhood, where does that work ethic that you have come from? Because I hear you talk about, I've heard you talk about in other interviews how you used to, run with guys and get in trouble and whatever. And that doesn't really sound like somebody who has a lot of work ethic, but then you somehow harnessed it all. So where did that come from?
Well, I was born on a small, wasn't really a farm, but we had some chickens and horses and animals and stuff. So I was born on a farm, and just everywhere I went when I was a kid, I remember I'm walking or running or riding a bike, all this kind of stuff. And my dad was a hard worker. And maybe it's just something innate. I was always doing something that was unusual. And I look back and I say, wow, I did that when I was like 11 years old or something. And nobody told me to do it. Like, we have this thing in England, it's a little thing, but they don't have it anymore, but it's a tradition. One time a year, you build this big bonfire.
Yeah.
And it's called Guy Fawkes Night because we celebrate the burning of somebody that was wanting to blow up Parliament, which sometimes I think the guy had a good idea. But anyway, I don't know how this became a tradition. All the kids, once a year, we'd have this bonfire, we'd have fireworks, and I wanted to build the biggest bonfire. So I had a horse. I took my horse and I took some rope, and I used to cut down trees with an axe and drag the trees back and build this thing all on my own. And I was like 11 years old. And I look back and I think that's not really normal, But I didn't know at the time. I just, was just doing what I'm doing, right? So I always had that work ethic, and I was always disciplined, even though when I was getting a little bit out of control, I'd always be the most kind of disciplined guy in my group. And I'd be the guy that if we were going to go to a concert or something like this, I'd be the one planning it and organizing it and getting the tickets and all that stuff. So
you mentioned your dad. What did your dad do for a living?
He was an engineer at a car plant, rover plant, and but he passed away from a heart attack when I was 13, and that had a huge effect on me.
Yeah.
Losing my father at that age.
I can only imagine. So do you think he kind of took over the man of the house role at that point? Did you have any siblings?
I had a sister. Yeah. So my sister was younger than me. So yeah, you kind of, I think I was always looking for a male role model. Mm-hmm. And first of all, when I was younger, it was the tough guys, whoever was the tough guys in the neighborhood and stuff like that. I thought that's what you're going to have to be. Yeah. That's what we're going to aspire to. And later on, I saw the bodybuilding magazines and saw the bodybuilders, and that kind of became more of a role model and more of a positive one later on.
So I see it now, it kind of makes sense. So you didn't look at, like, when you were looking for that role model, you weren't necessarily looking for the smartest guy. You were just looking for that. The big guy or the fighter or somebody that.
Yeah. We're talking about, I grew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
There's a different era, and real men were hard drinking, cigarette smoking, tough guys that didn't show emotions. So that was kind of the image that you had to be a male. But later on, the bodybuilders became almost like surrogate fathers, or, at least my image of what they were, because the magazines present a certain image. It's not always correct, but it was a positive thing for me to look at.
Did you get through school okay, or how was that, like, after your dad passes at 13?
I was doing quite well at school in studies and everything, and now I can look. At the time you don't realize, but now I can look back, and I just didn't have it. I just was not interested at all after my dad passed away, and I was like, I still believe that the whole school system is wrong. I sensed it then, like it's more about indoctrination and getting you in there at a certain time and keeping you there all day and making you follow rules and all these things, which I instinctively didn't like and still don't. Really.
It's funny you said that. I said that to somebody the other day because everything that's going on with COVID. I said, it's funny they've been conditioning us since we were little kids to follow the bell. When the bell goes off, you go here, you go there.
You know, and what time you go to school? You go to school from 9 till 4 or whatever. It's very similar to the workday that they're preparing you for, right? And what you practically learn in school, you could learn that in a much shorter period of time than you do. I have the same opinion of university. People go to university for 5 years or whatever, get themselves in debt, and practically what they learn, you could probably learn that in 6 months on, really doing it.
Yeah. So did you finish school or did you leave because you weren't interested?
I just left. I just left school. I left home, and then my life was a bit upside down for a period of time. I actually was introduced to bodybuilding at school. Well, not at school, but while I was at school.
Yeah.
A couple of friends of mine, we had some weights and we were in his kitchen, and we got hold of what was at the time Muscle Builder, which was Joe Weider's magazine.
Yeah.
And it had Robbie Robinson on the cover. I told this story many times, but Robbie Robinson was cool, man. He had the little dreadlocks, the cornrow hair. He had this ripped up T-shirt. He was like a rebel. So me and my friends were looking at this guy and thought, wow, this is... And I started training then, but when I left home, as I said, my life was upside down. I couldn't get to the gym. Many times I didn't have somewhere to live, let alone trying to, train and eat properly and so on.
I was just going to ask you, when you left home, so how old were you when you left home? Like 14, 15?
16.
So how did you get by? Like, where did you work? How did you live? Like, what did you do?
Well, a lot of the time I was unemployed, and, you get some benefit from the government in England, but it's not much. Maybe you get some work on the side. That was one of the things at the time, on construction or something like that, where you get paid cash. Yeah. And I was living at friends' houses, living on couches and so on.
Yeah. Was it, I don't know how personal you want to get, so you can just stop me anytime, but did you have a bad relationship with your mother, or why did you just felt like you had to leave?
I didn't have a great relationship with my mother, and I kind of, I could see why now. My mom had been through this trauma of losing her husband, and then she got remarried a year later, and this guy also died from a heart attack, so very tragic. It didn't really touch me because I wasn't close with him, but obviously for my mom it was tragic. And she just couldn't handle looking after this angry, upset, rebellious teenage son. She didn't know what to do with me. Yeah. And we were living in the city, and she decided to move out to the countryside where originally we came from, because she was an equestrian lady riding horses and stuff like that. So I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay here. So I was just kind of looking after myself for a while. Sometimes I had a job, sometimes I didn't. I lost quite a few jobs because of this attitude that I had, that I didn't like people telling me what to do, or I perceived they're treating me the wrong way with the wrong attitude, and I wouldn't react well to that. So I lost a few jobs, and so, it was a bit of a tough time, but it was a learning process.
Do you think you still have that attitude?
No, I'm much calmer now. I don't, I'm still question everything.
Well, that's what I was getting at, is you still have that attitude of you're not really a conformist.
I'm absolutely not a conformist. No.
Yeah.
I will question everything.
So you've kind of carried that all throughout your life then?
Yeah, I carried it throughout my life. I carried it throughout my bodybuilding career. I did it didn't want to conform to anything I didn't feel comfortable with. And fortunately, at some point, I was in a position to be able to, if you're the winner of the contest, if you're Mr. Olympia, you can call the shots to a degree. Yeah. So I remember the first time I went out to California to do photo shoots, and at the point that they were doing some fake weights and guys were wearing sunglasses and all this stuff. And I just said, man, I can't do this. This is not me. And I managed to persuade one of the photographers to do some real, let me lift some real heavy weights. And not going to be able to pose and smile, but it'll look real. And it did. And then it was so popular, it changed the way they wanted to do pictures after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely caught on. So what kind of trouble did you get into? Did you get into any serious trouble after moving out, or was it more just kind of?
Not really, I'm just with a group of friends who are punk rockers and skinheads. I was a skinhead, had the head shaved, and this was our group. We had a certain way of dressing, a certain music we were into, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a surrogate family. I understand. It was not like serious gang bangers or what you have now.
Yeah.
But we drink and we go out, and you're 17, 18 years old, you get into some fights with some other groups, but it wasn't anything serious. If somebody was carrying a knife or somebody used a knife, that would be like really very serious, something unusual. Now in England, like, it's terrible with a knife crime, kids carrying knives and guns, and the whole scene has changed. So nothing like now. But you're 17, 18, you're not living at home, you don't have any structure, you don't have any parental guidance and so on. So it could have been a lot worse than it was.
So where did you turn the corner? What was finally the thing that was like, I don't want to party with these guys anymore, I'm going to calm down a bit?
I got sent to jail for a few months, but it wasn't really jail. It's called a detention center in England. At least that's what they used to be called.
What did you end up there for?
Just really sounds like a cliche, but I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was some, this was in 1980, I don't know if it was 81. Maybe it was 81, yeah. There was a whole series of street riots in England. A lot of civil unrest. There was a lot of anger, especially from the black community, mainly Jamaican community in England, because of the way they were being treated by the police. And yet, it just blew up. Every major city in the country at one point was on fire. There was looting, all this stuff going on. And me and my friend were just walking through the middle of the city late at night. We weren't involved in it, but we were walking through
yeah,
all the shops broken down and everything like that. And my friend decided would be a good idea to pull some of the clothes out of the window. And we got arrested by police almost immediately. I mean, we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and got sent away for a few months to this kind of real, it's almost like a military regime they put you on. You got to march in the morning, you got to go to classes, you got to do physical exercise. And one of the first days I was there, they take you for physical exercise, and they had this, what we call circuit training. It's a bit like CrossFit now, circuit training. You go from one exercise to another, from squats to push-ups, to chin-ups, to burpees, whatever. And, okay, you guys, you go around the circuit 3 times. And when you finished it correctly, you sit down here. So I went around, I had a little background. I'd done karate, I'd done a bit of weights. I was pretty fit. So I went around, I smashed down 3 times, I sat down. And the prison officer says, what the fuck are you doing there? So you told me to go around 3 times, I sit down. It's like, go around again. I want to watch you go around again. So I went around again. It's like, all right. And actually, I got treated a little differently from the officers in there. And this one guy was a powerlifter who was a PT. So we were doing powerlifting twice a week in the gym. And, I wasn't using no extraordinary poundages, but it was more than nearly everybody else in there. And I had a physique. So everybody was treating me differently, from the officers to the other inmates and so on. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? I got something here that's different, that I'm better than all these guys in here. So I'm going to do something with this when I get out. And the officer was like, I got this guy in Birmingham, where you come from. I know him as a powerlifter. He's got the powerlifting gym, and he gave me the address. He said, go there when you get out. Yeah. I never went there because I wasn't interested in powerlifting. I was already in love with bodybuilding.
What can I ask? What sorry, can I ask why did you choose bodybuilding over powerlifting? If the gym is your favorite part?
Because I'd already been introduced to the bodybuilders, Robbie Robinson, and I'd seen stuff about Mike Mensa and Arnold and all this stuff, and I was fascinated by it, and I wanted to look like that. I don't want to be a big, chunky fat guy. That's what I thought powerlifters were at that point, and also the complexity of bodybuilding with the diet and having to get into the shape for contests and all these things that appealed to me much more.
So where did you end up going if you didn't go to the powerlifting gym? Where did the bodybuilding start?
It started in a gym that eventually became Temple Gym and became my gym. Okay. When I first went there, it was a basement kung fu center with a little side with weights in there. And that's where I started training. And then I trained at various places. And a few years later, this gym became vacant. And I had won the British Championship. I'd won it very quickly. So somebody offered to back me with the gym, with the money. I had no money. I had nothing. For 2 or 3 years, all I did was put everything I had. I was working, or I was doing security on bars and nightclubs. Put everything I had to my diet and training fees, and got to be British champion, and then had this opportunity to open the gym.
So we skipped over a bit there. How old were you when you left the jail? Not jail, but
19. I was 19, and I started training at 21 because I was very strategic about it. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I want to do it properly, and I want to do competitions. It was nothing casual like, hey, I'm going to train and let's see how it goes. So, like, first of all, before I do that, I need to get an apartment. I need to get a job. I need to get my life in order. And it took me a little time to do that, about 1.5 years. And when I felt I was ready, I was like, right, today, from this day, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to keep a training diary. I'm going to do everything right. And, from day one. And I already had a lot of knowledge about training, mostly theoretical, because I'd read every magazine, every book and nutrition book and everything I could find, get my hands on.
Can I ask you, when you say that was the day you got started, was that the day you decided, I want to be a pro bodybuilder? This is what I want to do. This is what I want to make a living? No, I didn't really. I mean, maybe that was a distant thought, but I just thought this is something positive I can put my energy into. Okay. And I want to do competitions, and I'd like to be like, wow, maybe getting at a British championship level or being one of the best in the country or something like that. That was kind of where my goals were aimed at that point. And that changed really quickly because 18 months later, I went to my first contest in the IFBB. A novice contest, and I won it. But not only did I win it, I impressed all the judges and the officials from the federation so much that they persuaded me to go and compete in the World Games 2 weeks later, which is a world championship. And I had Barry DeMay won the contest, who went on to be top 6 finisher in Olympia. Matt Mendenhall was second place, who was a huge name in American bodybuilding. I don't know if you know him, but he was like a guy that probably never reached his potential. He could have been Mr. Olympia for sure. And this was a standard of people I was competing against after 1.5 years of training, coming from a novice competition. So at that point, and I got a lot of feedback. There was a guy in England called Ron Davis, who was the head of the federation, and he was a judge at Mr. Olympia. He knew all the Olympians, he knew all of the industry, he knew all the people, and he was very encouraging, saying, "Listen, man, you can beat these guys. Just a little bit more time." So you won your first show that you did, the novice.
That was the first official show I did. I actually did one after about 6 months of training, which was a local gym contest that I went into with no preparation, no diet, like barely any tan. I was white as a sheet, but I won that contest as well. And I was competing against guys that have been training for years. Okay.
So I'm going to dispel a myth right now that I hear all the time, and I wonder how you feel about it. I hear people say this phrase all the time. Dorian Yates didn't have great genetics, but he was able to make his physique great with work ethic. And I feel like it's a really false statement. How do you feel about that statement?
Maybe it's my own fault because I made a statement probably when I was Mr. Olympia or around about that time. Because I was looking at Flex Wheeler.
Yeah.
I was looking how extraordinary this guy's physique is, yeah, and how great he looks. Mm-hmm. And sorry, Flex, if you're going to be listening to this, but quite frankly, he was a little bit lazy. Mm-hmm. And he was not really super motivated. He was almost like taking his gift for granted. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I wasn't saying I have shitty genetics.
Yeah.
I was saying there are people out there with better genetics than me, but I'm outworking them. And if Flex had my head on his shoulders, it would be a scary thing. So maybe that's where it came from. So I have great genetics for bodybuilding. I mean, you're only going to look at my early photos when I've been training for 6 months. The physique's there. I mean, it's not huge or nothing. It's like 200 pounds maybe, but lean, proportionate, no real weak points. Maybe the biceps are pretty average, but that's about it. You know,
I just feel like somebody who could achieve your size and your success, it's not possible to say somebody that has bad genetics. I mean, Flex,
no, of course not. You don't get on the Olympia stage, even last place, without having way above average genetics.
Yeah. Okay.
And everyone has different genetics. Like Flex has very small joints and very round muscle bellies. And maybe this you can say is more aesthetic, where my physique was a little bit more powerful, maybe more Herculean. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's different genetics, but yeah, you can't be Mr. Olympia without having superior genetics.
Okay, so
but my point was, I didn't have the best genetics in the world. There's other people out there, but if you work hard, you work smart, and you work consistently, you can surpass somebody with better genetics that's not giving it 100%. So that was really my point. Maybe it got misunderstood.
Yeah. While we're dispelling some myths, I want to hear your thoughts about squatting, because every time a squatting conversation comes up, people say, well, Dorian Yates didn't squat. So can you clarify that for me, please? Did you squat at all coming up, or just never at all?
Yeah, I mean, I started, as I said, training early, mid-80s, and Tom Platz was the man.
Yeah.
So everybody in every gym, and you didn't have like these foo-foo gyms then and fitness centers. They were gyms, yeah?
Yeah.
They were hardcore gyms, spit and sawdust gyms, we call them, and guys are in there lifting weights. And if you did not squat, your sexuality will be questioned. Yeah, let's put it that way. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
What the fuck's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, yeah.
On the machine and all this. Yeah. So, of course, I was squatting. I had the Tom Platz powerlifting squatting shoes, the whole thing. Yeah, and everybody was, the squat rack was the altar. This was, separating the men from the boys. So I was doing that. Ass to the floor barbell squats. But at one point I tore something around my right hip. And if you look carefully on the contest photos when I'm doing a side tricep or side chest, there's a big scar there. It's not really noticeable because you've got the Pro-Tan on and everything.
Yeah.
So I tore something there. And I mean, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. There was no physios and these kind of people around. You just go to your MD or I hurt myself. Okay, so take these anti-inflammatories and stop being stupid and lifting weights, or take a break and go back. And that was it, Yeah. So I went back, and it became like a recurring problem that I would get this hip little pains and tears and stuff every time I'm trying to squat. So I wasn't getting anywhere with the leg training. I had a surgery to remove some scar tissue. And I'm sure that these days it would be another way around it, just with therapy, physical therapy and everything, and probably would have worked it out. But I figured out I didn't really have an ideal structure for squatting. I got very long lower legs. That's why I got such big calves, maybe. Very long muscle bellies there as well.
Yeah.
And it didn't really feel natural, but I was doing it because you got to do it. Yeah. So, okay, now I'm injured. I don't have any choice. Everyone said you can't build legs without squats, and I believe that, but I don't have a choice now. So I started squatting on a Smith machine, where I could position the feet forward and keep the back upright and get more on the quads. I started doing that. I started doing hack squats and leg press, and my legs really improved. So yes, I grew legs without doing squats. But I did do them in the early days. And actually, if you look at my very early photos from World Games, it almost is like my legs are a little bit ahead of my upper body. So I'm not saying squats don't work. Yeah. I'm just saying for me, they were not the best thing, and there was too much injury risk. And I do think if I had done free weight squats all through my career, I think I'd have a lot more back problems than I do now. I'm quite fortunate I don't have any disc and back problems because of that.
Do you think your legs could have been, like, as you said, you thought your legs were a little bit better when you were squatting. Do you think your legs could have been even better than they were had you kept squatting, if you were able to do it with, like, and stay healthy?
Well, if I could have done it and not get injured, then possibly. But if something has an injury risk, then that's going to set you right back, man. If you get injured, you lose a year or 6 months of gains, and you're going to start all over again. So that's the position I was in. But they were working for me initially, yes. So it's hard to say.
What's the heavy? I know you were a heavier lifter. What was the heaviest you ever squatted? Like for reps, like on a normal?
Well, it wasn't that heavy because I wasn't that strong at this point. I mean, I probably stopped squatting, I think, around 86. So I was only like competing then at 210 or something. Well, I was going up to, like 5 plates or like 490 pounds, something like that. And they weren't half squats, man. They were like ass on the floor stuff.
That's funny. That's funny that you say that. You're like, I wasn't training that heavy. I thought you were going to say like 3 plates. But you're like five, and I'm assuming because of the way.
Yeah, but you got guys like Ronnie and doing 7 or 8 plates. Kevin used to do 6, 7 plates. Yeah, but Kevin's legs were better early in his career as well. If you take note.
Yeah, but I'm assuming because I know your philosophy on range of motion, I'm assuming your ass was touching the ground pretty much.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. We're all Tom Platt's disciples at that point, because this guy had these legs that looked like they're from another planet. So, and he's adamant that you just got to squat, and if you don't squat, you're not going to get legs. So that's the guy that inspired us. He came to England quite a lot doing appearances and seminars, and very inspirational guy, very energetic, like passionate, and that's something that's kind of missing from the sport these days. You don't get that. Guys really debating training methods and having that passion for like really going to the limit in the gym.
Yeah, I mean,
it may be there, but I'm just not aware of it. It's not so obvious.
Yeah, do you follow the sport closely or not really? Not really so much.
Not really so much, but I'm on Instagram and I follow some stuff on there, and I see there are some guys on there doing some impressive lifting. Sometimes I come across it. So there are people out there, but just the general culture has changed. The whole around the sport has changed. The gym culture, the fitness culture, everything it's different than it used to be.
I don't know if you'll take the time to watch, but I think I'm going to send you some links of what some of the guys are doing nowadays. It's some pretty impressive stuff. I mean, James Hollingshead is actually from the UK. I don't know if you're familiar with him. But
name rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, he squats like 7, 8 plates, like it's nothing. I mean, Ian Valliere, he's here from Canada. He squats, 6, 7 plates for reps. I mean, these guys are. I think you'd be more impressed. I think if I sent you some of the guys and what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the guys are out there. I'm just making a general statement.
Yeah, no, I hear.
Now you've got gyms where bodybuilders are not even welcome.
That's true.
They don't want you in there, which is a shame, because all the original gyms were bodybuilding gyms. That's how the whole industry got started. So it's a shame that now the places have just become commercial businesses and not welcome there anymore.
I know we're going a little away from where I wanted to go, but I actually am curious now. Do you think the reason that guys aren't doing the stuff they used to do, or maybe not as much, is I think maybe guys play a little safer now because there's much more money involved?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I got injured in my career twice.
Yeah.
Both times getting ready for a contest. So now I advise people to train differently cruising into a contest now, because you're much more vulnerable.
Yeah.
We all know about Ronnie's injuries from his heavy training. So maybe guys now are looking at more longevity. You got a guy like Dexter Jackson, I don't know how long he's been competing, maybe 20 years as a pro. I don't know. Is it nearly 20 years?
I think 30. You know, and then you got Sean Roden. I think he's 43 or 44. So guys are wanting to compete later into their years. And
I think a lot of guys are not doing the like heavy squats and deadlifts and things like that now, maybe for that reason.
I think they are, maybe not to the extent they were before. Like I said, I think, you know, I imagine in your day, if you weren't a weeder athlete, you probably weren't making very much money in bodybuilding.
Yeah, I mean, if you were not, I mean, the magazines were everything, right? If you're not in the magazines, you're not a contest winner, there's no revenue. Now guys can make money on various revenue streams, and then social media is very important for that.
Yeah. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, I wanted to touch on one thing. What was your worst placing before getting into the pro ranks? Did you ever do bad at a show?
Well, my worst placing as an amateur was 1986 when I won the British Championship heavyweight class. And at that point, you had one overall winner a year that got the pro card, the pro status.
Yeah.
So I lost out to the guy that won the light heavyweight class. So I don't know, that was under 90 kilos. And I was over 90 kilos. So I won my class, but I lost the overall in a bit of a controversial decision. So that was it. And then when I turned pro, I got second in my first night of champions.
Yeah.
Next year I got first. And when I did my first Olympia, I got second. And the next year I got first. So 2 seconds as a pro is the lowest that I ever placed.
I want to get into the X's and O's just a little bit, just because I've always been interested. You said you learned everything in the magazine, from the magazines that you had and just reading books and different things.
Yeah.
How did you decide what your diet was going to be? Was it heavy protein? Was it heavy carbs? Like, how was your diet set up?
It changed a little bit over the years, but mainly it was making sure I got enough protein. So around about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay. And that, you know, that I experimented with that over the years, going a little higher and so on. So get the protein in, keep the fats low, which now I know would probably be better with a little higher, but then the fats were the enemy. So instead of having whole eggs, we're having mainly egg whites and keeping the fats really low. And the rest were carbohydrates. So I was never a low carb guy. Getting ready for Olympia would probably be like minimum 350, 400 grams a day.
That's not that high without a lot of fat. It doesn't seem,
seem
that high. So, and protein actually seems pretty low too at a gram per pound. Is that a gram per pound of body weight or lean body mass?
Body weight. And probably like by the time I was Olympia, I was going like 1.5 grams a day. So like 400, 450. But I go back and look in my diary for British Championship is about 250 grams of protein a day. So the main thing for me was watching the overall calorie intake. Mm-hmm. As long as I was below a certain level, I was losing weight. And I remember, so I got this from Mensa, get enough protein in, but so I used to have a small little bar of chocolate every day when I was getting ready for a contest.
Okay.
And I'd eat it after training with a protein shake. Okay. So all the guys in the gym and the guys that had done contests and everything, like, kid, you got a contest coming up. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, it's in my quota. You don't know what you're doing. I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah. What was the reason for the chocolate? Why did you decide that was?
Just because I could.
Okay. I mean, I like that. I like that idea.
I was just of the belief of, listen, if I'm burning 3,000 calories a day and I'm taking in 2,500, there's a deficit, whether it comes from a chocolate bar or potato or banana or whatever it does. I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah. Where did Dorian Yates get introduced to steroids? Where did that come into your life? Was that at the start? Because I know
I did the first contest, the little one, the local one in Birmingham, with nothing. And then, you're in the gym and it wasn't hard. a lot of the guys in the gym were on steroids. Some were competing, some weren't. So I decided when I'm going to do this contest in the IFBB, I'm going to take a little bit of stuff. And I still remember the guy that was running the gym. He brought me my first 100 D-ball. So I took a little bit of D-ball for like 6 weeks, I think, put on some size, and then I was taking a shot or two of Primo a week and a little bit of Anavar for my first contest. So I did it to prepare for my first contest because I'm like, if I'm competing, I know the guys in the contests are going to be on stuff. So I just want to be on the even playing field. So, it was very moderate doses, but straight away that I was competing in the IFBB, that's when I got introduced to it and I started using it.
Did you notice a drastic difference as soon as you started?
I mean, my first course was like, I don't know, I put on like 15 pounds, I think, in a month. And some of it's water and so on. Yeah, it's dramatic, very dramatic the first time I took something. And that was just, I think, 15 milligrams of D-ball a day. They came in 5 milligrams in. Taking 3 of those a day, and it was a huge difference. Yeah.
What was the culture like then? Like, I know all the guys you said all the guys in the gym were on steroids, but did you have to keep it a secret, like amongst anybody else you knew?
No, not really. I mean, I had a girlfriend. She knew, and I guess I wasn't, close to my family and stuff, so they didn't know. But it wasn't really something I tried to hide. If somebody asked me, it was not a big deal. But there was a little bit of when I first went to the gym and I asked people, they were a bit cagey, like almost like it's a little inner circle of, you just started, kid, no. And later on you get accepted into the club kind of thing. Yeah. And people start talking about it a bit more freely and they can see you're serious and stuff. I mean, I had one guy that was one of the big dealers around the area. And he came to me in the gym and it's like, kid, you got what it takes, I mean, I've been training for a few months. It's like, trust me, I've been around this game a long time. You got the right muscle fiber. You got everything. I can see it. And, when you're ready, you come see me.
Do you think all this positive reinforcement, I mean, when you go back to not the jail, but whatever you want to call it, where you were, and they gave you the positive reinforcement physically, and then you got this positive reinforcement from the older guys at the gym. Is it something this kind of all contributed to your belief, do you think?
Yeah, and it felt like home as well. It's like I belong there. Yeah. I'm good at this. And like I wasn't bad at school if I applied myself, but I didn't see the point. I didn't want to. So I left school without qualifications. But I always had something inside of me that I knew I was different and I would do something different. And I was not destined for the life that other people were happy with. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. You get a job, you get a girlfriend, or you get married and you have a kid and you work and you have a government housing and you get drunk on Friday nights and that's it. That's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And screw that, man. I want to see the world. I want to do something special. And bodybuilding was my ticket to do that. It was a way out of the environment I was in. I had no family to advise me or help me, and no contacts and all this stuff. So it was a way for me to totally change the trajectory of my life and to make something of it.
At that time when you were coming up, when you were first started training, I'm imagining it's your early 20s, did you have a lot of friends, or was it kind of like you and your girlfriend and you kind of were a loner aside from that?
I had friends, but I kind of honestly, like, they were still going out and do social and stuff like that. So I kind of cut myself off from that and created a new bunch of friends from the gym, really. Yeah. Because, you have the same goals and everything. You end up, maybe all going to the movies on Friday night or something to watch Rambo or Rocky or something, because, and the guys are taking their plastic bowls with the tuna and rice in there. And, it's just like, it's a totally different thing. I couldn't go out with the guys drinking and, all this kind of stuff. It would just be ruining my next day's workout and ruining my rest and my sleep and all this stuff. So I kind of created a new group of friends and Family was more like my girlfriend's family and so on. She had a big extended family. So that was kind of like became my family as well.
Yeah. So when you formulated your plan to become, the best you could be, you kind of started right from the beginning. Did you go to like sleep at the same time every night? You didn't go out and drink. You didn't smoke weed.
Absolutely, man. It was a prepared mission.
Yeah.
Like preparing for war.
Yeah.
I had everything ready to start with. I had all the information, I had all the knowledge, and right, okay, I'm gonna get my gym membership, make sure I got enough income coming in. I got my apartment now, that's sorted out. I had an apartment, but I didn't have much furniture. I didn't have a proper bed. I had a mattress on the floor. I didn't have carpet. I just had the kitchen. I had an old TV that barely worked. But it was good enough. It was a base for me to be able to operate from. And that was it. I'm going to do bodybuilding and I'm going to compete. And I would like to be, if I could be British champion one day, that would be amazing. And then very quickly, my whole perspective changed because I was very successful very quickly. And I realized I could go further than that.
If you hadn't been so successful early on, do you think you would have kept pushing it? Or do you think it would have dissuaded you from it?
Well, I made a vow to myself, really as regards to the steroids and the extreme kind of dedication that I was applying to this. Mm-hmm. Because I saw a lot of other people doing it, but they were never going to get anywhere. I mean, I could see that, right? And they're sacrificing their time with their family, they're possibly taking risks with their health. They're spending all the money on this thing and they're dreaming, and then it's never going to happen, right? So why make all those sacrifices? So I said, I'm going to give it everything I've got. And when I became British champion, I opened my gym, and at that point there was not many gyms around. So I was making a pretty okay living then for a 25-year-old guy. I said, if I haven't got what it takes, I'll quit the steroids, I'll train, and I'll open more gyms, and I'll just relax on this kind of tunnel vision that I've got. And that was my vow when I first did my pro show, which was Night of Champions. I said, if I don't get in the top 5, then I haven't got what it takes. Because I looked at the history of bodybuilding. All the guys that were great winners, I mean, they were great off the mark. I mean, Arnold didn't get like 10th place in Mr. Universe, and then the next year he won it. Yeah. It was there, yeah. Same thing with all the other guys, Tom Platz, Mensa, everyone I was looking at. It's evident. So if I go to Night of Champions and I can't crack the top 5, I'm not going to make it as a pro bodybuilder, and I'll hang it up at that point. I won't hang up bodybuilding, and I'll open more gyms, I'll be involved, but not to that extent.
I've heard you say that before, and I'm curious. I've always wondered, had you placed 6th or 7th, would you actually have hung it up, or would you have tried it?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
You think it would have been that easy just to give it up like that, though?
Not to give it up, because I could still train, but it's like the amount of energy that I'm putting into it is not worth it. And the potential risk for your health, taking steroids, not worth it. So, and, maybe with that energy and that focus, I could have opened more gyms and made more money and changed my life like that, perhaps. That would have been an alternative route, but still being involved in a sport that I love. But still doing it, but not doing it to the extreme that I was doing it. And I continue to do it.
Would you say that your goal all along was always to be, it sounds to me like, because you put that limitation on yourself, like I have to be top 5 or else. Yeah. It sounds to me like your goal as a pro was always to be one of the best, if not the best.
What's the point of being a pro if you're not a pro?
Well, I mean,
pro means professional. Yeah. That means you're making your living solely from this one endeavor.
Sure.
Just because you got a pro card or a pro status, don't make you a pro. It doesn't make you professional if you're having to do other things on the side in order to, feed your family and pay your rent and everything. So that was what I was being realistic about, because it's not just me making the sacrifices. I had a young son. I had a son very early on. Okay. I had a girlfriend. So they're losing time and focus with you. Majority of your money is going into, pursuing your sport and everything. So it wouldn't be fair to the people around you as well to expect them to continue to keep sacrificing for no reward. So that was my attitude.
I guess it was probably different at that, in that era of bodybuilding? Because when I turned pro, I never reached the highest levels of the IFBB, but I made a good living. But there's also very different nowadays to kind of earn a living. So I guess I see your point. You said you had a son early on. How old were you when you had your son?
I had my son when I was, I think I was 21 when he was born.
Okay.
So I was 21, his mom was 17. So, we had him really early on, and that was not something that was planned. It's just,
So did that make pressure of becoming a good pro or becoming successful even greater, you'd say?
I think so, yeah. And the guy I looked to was Lee Haney, because he had a son, he had a family where most of the other guys didn't. So he was kind of inspirational in that point, that you could do it with a family, you could manage it.
Do you think, and like I said, again, you can stop me anytime, but do you think the family suffered in any way because of your passion?
For sure, man. I mean, I was extreme with everything I did. So, I had to get my sleep in. I couldn't be out later than a certain point. I had to get my sleep in the afternoon. I had to eat 6 meals a day. So if my son's, sports day at school or the parents' day was an inconvenient time for me, I wouldn't go. Okay. Stuff like that. So they miss out on time, and more than time, it's just focus. Because when you're so focused, you might be somewhere. Yeah. But your head's somewhere else.
Yeah, you're not really there.
Because it's just tunnel vision and you're focusing on all this stuff. So
yeah.
For sure. And any kind of social events, I would really avoid going to. I didn't want to go. Was there weddings and parties and things like that? I'd say to my wife, you go. I don't want to come.
Was there any type of anxiety, or is that the introvert in you coming out, or is it just solely because you're focused on bodybuilding?
Bit of both. Of both, I think. I mean, I became much more open and much more social and everything after I retired. Yeah. So those things are, no problem for me then. But then I was like, I got my routine, and I, sometimes it's not necessary, but I'm like, if I slip, if I miss one meal, or if I miss one day's training or something, that can lead to another one, and the whole thing can fall apart. So I'm not allowing that to happen. It's kind of an extreme mindset, a little bit OCD, but it worked for me.
Do you think some people, when they're in this sport, they want everybody to know they're in this sport? When you were out, and this is just a side question I have.
Yeah.
When you were out, did you try and hide your size, or were you proud of your size? If you went to the grocery store, were you ever in a tank top, or were you the guy in the hoodie that didn't want?
Man, I never even wore a tank top in the gym.
Okay, I kind of figured that. Okay.
Listen, anyone that trained with me will tell you, they never, my training partners that trained with me for Mr. Olympia, they never saw my physique until maybe 5 or 6 weeks before, when I would do some posing in the gym, and I would invite a few people whose opinion I respected to come and have a look and kind of get their feedback. Because, yeah, of course I was the biggest guy in the gym, so I could take my top off and everyone would be like, "Ooh, and wow, and you look incredible." But I didn't need that, man, especially from somebody that has never even watched a Mr. Olympia contest. Yeah. Maybe you watched a videotape that we had at the time, but you don't really know how these guys look in the flesh. So I would be only a few people that I would trust there to get their feedback and their opinion. So in the gym, I would train with a sweatshirt on. It might be cut off at the forearms, so you could see my forearms, and around the traps, it would be cut off. But that's it, apart from that. And I did all my posing practice at home, away from the gym. So even people at the gym wouldn't know what I looked like.
But that's in the gym. So is that when you're out in public? Did you?
No, I'd be covered up, man. I didn't need people looking at me. Like,
you didn't want anybody.
Why? Like, they don't even know what they're looking at, right? We're talking 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
There's not the fashion and the fitness industry and the emphasis on the body and looking good and everything. You're kind of like, what the hell is this? back then.
Moving on to when you turned pro, you've talked about your competition with Lee Haney. And I know, you said you kind of went in looking at it like, you can't treat him like an icon. You have to treat him like a competitor. But the question I have for you is, do you think you beat him that show or not?
No.
You think he won like
I think he won, yeah. I mean, I did actually beat him in one round. I beat him in the muscularity round, which had never happened before.
Yeah.
So I got first place in that round. But if you look like standing relaxed, I think he's got that, that huge V taper. It was a little bigger and fuller, maybe. Maybe my condition was a bit better. And his presentation and everything, I mean, the guy is a veteran, has been up there many years. Yeah. So his posing presentation, which at that point did count. I mean, I know it doesn't really count now, they don't judge it, but
yeah.
At that point it did count. So I think that he was a winner and I didn't have a problem with that. I would like to have competed with him again and reversed that decision, but I didn't get the chance and totally understand why.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you think he retired because he knew you were coming? And would it have been kind of feather in your cap to be able to?
I would have liked to, of course, but I understand why he made that decision. And I don't know, you'd have to ask Lee. Maybe he was planning to retire anyway, I think, after getting 8, because, it's a long time to be up there. He had the record. And even more reason now you've got a young, hungry guy coming up that is only going to improve. But I wouldn't like to say that I was the reason he retired. I think he probably was going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But we did sit down at one point. I don't know, it was a couple of years later or a year or two later. And I was chatting with him and I'm like, Lee, why don't you come back, man, and give me another chance? And he just started laughing, He just started laughing and he said, man, I'm going fishing. I'm going fishing, man.
That's funny. Through your career, I know there's a lot of turmoil with you and Sean Ray and all that. I don't want to bring that up, but one of the things that...
And if you want, I don't care, man. I mean, it wasn't...
No, it's okay.
Turmoil, it was just... we were like polar opposites in many ways.
Yeah. But no, the most controversial thing I want to lead to was the Nasser Sonbaty 1997 Olympia. That's probably your most controversial, Mr. Olympia.
Absolutely, I would agree with that, yeah.
How do you feel about that? How does your, inside, when I can only imagine what it feels like to win a show but have people say maybe you didn't?
Yeah.
How are your feelings about that show?
Well, it was my worst showing at the Olympia, I believe, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because of I already had one injury, but now I had another injury on the same arm. But I'm pretty analytical and mathematical with everything I do. And I understand why people think that Nasser should have won, because in some poses, he killed me.
Yeah.
He looked way better. But the 7 poses and the way the contest is judged is the winner is the guy that wins the majority of those 7 poses. So if I go through those poses in my mind, front double biceps is murdering me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Let's put it like this. Let's just say
front double Nasser. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, let's put it like this. To be generous, everybody in the contest beats me on front double bicep. Every single person.
Okay.
Okay, right. Okay. Side chest. Nasser beats me.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to the back.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Back double.
Back double biceps. That's easily mine.
Of course.
Back lat spread. We don't even need to say anything.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So now we're 2-2.
2-2. Yeah.
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 Side tricep.
Yep.
Close, but along with we missed out. What did we miss out? Front lat spread.
We missed front lat spread.
Front lat spread. I mean, it's pretty much the same comment as a front and back lat spread. I don't think,
Do you want to look at them?
Yeah, let's look.
Okay, let's look. So I pulled, here's a front lat spread. What do you think?
It's kind of our screen is covering it, so
See if I can find another one that's kind of from the side.
that's
let's
wrong.
do this.
Yeah.
Let's do the side tricep. How's that? Oh, that's a 95.
95 that I can see there.
Okay, let me see. Let me see. 97 Olympia. Okay. I don't know if I got anything better here, but this is 95 again. That's 97. What's this? This is 97. Can you see that or no?
If I can move these screens, I can, but I don't know how to do it. Okay.
Let me see if I click on it, if I get, oh, it's a video.
He was placed second.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Wait, let me make it bigger. How's that?
That's a relaxed pose. Nasser's got me on that. I mean, front relax wasn't my best pose anyway, and that year he definitely got me there.
Front relaxed, Nasser. Okay.
Yeah.
And we got, oh, you're walking out here. Let's go forward. I don't know. This is just a history, I think. Front double, you already called that one.
Yeah, that's Nasser's all day.
Let's see what else we got. Front lat spread. Front lat spread. What do you think?
Nasser's got better legs. I got better lats.
Yeah.
Better conditioning in that pose, it looks like.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd probably say I take that one, but it's closer than I thought.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. It actually is pretty close, but I think I would give it to you also. So Dorian. Yeah. So we got 2-2.
Now we're at 3-2 with the two back poses.
Yeah, let me just do this back double. Back lat is both Dorian. Front doubles Nasser, front lat spread Dorian. Side chest, you said you think you had the side chest?
No, I think Nasser had the side chest, although I haven't studied it lately, but
let's see.
Yeah, it's hard to say from that shot, but
I think your conditioning looks a little better. His chest looks a little fuller.
Yeah, it's hard to call that one. Could be a draw, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to call.
It is. I agree. Let's see. We have a side tricep.
Side tricep, that's not a good angle for me, but
yeah.
Side tricep was like with the lat spread is one of my best compulsory poses, especially with the leg back showing the calf.
Yeah, with the leg spread like that, yeah.
So I would say the side tricep would be mine, although I'm not saying my triceps are better.
Yeah.
You have to judge the pose from head to toe, but that's not a good angle to judge it from.
Yeah, I agree. So far you have 4 poses. I mean, that's 4 of the 7. If we go,
yeah, then you've got abs and thighs, that would also be pretty close.
The thing is, the back double. I know there's 7 poses, but I don't feel like they're all equal. Would you agree with that? Because I feel like the back shots are almost more important.
I mean, we can debate that, but we should say there's 7 poses and it's the mathematical equation. I don't think any one pose should be more important than the others. So that, 2 back shots are mine there. I don't think many people would debate that.
Ab and thigh?
Ab and thigh, it's pretty tight. I mean, I look impressive because of the lat width.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Abs maybe look a little bit better there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That one's close.
It's closer than, yeah. Is it closer than you remember?
I'll be generous and give it to him. Wouldn't matter at that point.
What's that?
Even if I'm generous and say that he won it, it wouldn't matter numerically at that point because I would already be ahead.
No. I mean, the show overall, does it, like, how do you feel about that show? Do you think?
You never, when you're there at the show, you never really know exactly how you look until afterwards.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Because you're looking at yourself in the mirror in the hotel room or backstage, and so it's only when the pictures and the video come out. Yeah, I knew it was close, and I knew that it was the first time I heard any boos.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was sections of the audience that felt he should have won. But I feel, and now there's 101 videos on the internet.
Yeah.
People going back and reviewing it and saying, well, Nasser was robbed. But often they don't really understand how the contest was judged.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you get a comment like, how can a guy with one arm win the contest? Well, that one arm, that injury only impacted me in one pose.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, all right, my front double bicep was the worst in the contest. It doesn't matter because I win the majority of the other poses. I win, even if we call some things a draw, I still think I would win the majority. Like I would win the 2 back poses and the side tricep for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I would win the front lat spread.
Did it affect you psychologically at all afterwards? Like when you're back home training, or did it affect you in any way? Or were you like, I'm still Mr. Olympia?
No, I mean, I was just disappointed that I got injured and I couldn't train the last 3 weeks. And it was, you know, it was the only contest I ever went into where I felt vulnerable and I didn't feel 100% confident because I was injured, and it was a bad injury. And I couldn't train at all the last 3 weeks. Imagine going into a Mr. Olympia and you can't even lift a weight because you're scared to, you know, the tendon was like, I don't know, 95% ruptured. So it was hanging on by a little bit. And if I pushed it, I even didn't really practice my posing because I was timid with the posing. And, you know, sometimes you're on stage and you bang elbows with people by mistake, and all that stuff is all in your mind, you know, so it undermines your confidence. And normally I just radiated confidence. I mean, people could feel it, people could see it, because I knew that I did the work and I knew I was in great shape. So that was not there so much that year. I was in pain, I had inflammation. Right up the night before the contest, I had a physio friend of mine who was treating my injury, and he drew off like 15 mil of blood and water and stuff from the elbow because it was all swollen up. So we're doing our best to try and get all that inflammation down. And that's really, you know, very less than ideal going into the best bodybuilding contest in the world. So I understand why people would think that Nasser wins, because if you look at some poses, he looks way better than me, admittedly.
Yeah.
But the majority, no.
Was there any point where you thought to yourself, I might pull out of this Olympia, or you just, that wasn't an option?
Of course, when the injury happened, I got home, I couldn't even extend my elbow. Later, a few days later, it got a bit better, but I heard the snap. What had happened is I had tendonitis and inflammation all year round. Yeah. And I should have taken time off and treated it and everything, but I didn't because, you know, I'm that guy that keeps going. And I got some what turned out to be bad advice about 6 weeks before the contest. I got a cortisone injection off a surgeon into the tricep tendon, which took the inflammation down, but of course it weakens the tissue even further, which was already probably partially torn and weakened anyway. Yeah. And it just blew. I think I was doing some pullover press for triceps. And it just, you know, it went bang, and I knew what had happened straight away. And, you know, you're totally disheartened and thinking, I'm not going to make the contest. But I got injured in 94 with a bicep tear, and I went through the same thing there thinking I couldn't do it. And I managed to get through. But the tricep tear was much more serious than the bicep was in the muscle. It didn't stop me from training. I had to change the grip on some exercises and things like that, but it didn't stop me too much. So, yeah, I went into that contest not feeling at my best at all. Yeah.
After that, how old were you at that contest?
35.
35. So relatively young, according to nowadays. How long?
Nowadays, yeah. I mean, Lee Haney retired at, I think, 32.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was kind of average then, 35, 36 maybe.
You know, the next topic's kind of more of a selfish one for me because I'm in the kind of that place right now. But what was the deciding factor for retirement, and how did you decide? Was it like an abrupt, okay, I'm done, or did it drag on? Did you think about coming back?
Well, I can tell you that during my preparations for 97, because I did everything so extreme and I didn't do anything else. I mean, if we went on vacation, I would still be training, which was not necessary, but that was just the mindset I was in. Yeah. So I was never switching off. I was starting to get burnt out a little bit in 97. I was starting to think, wow, this feels like Groundhog Day. This feels like it feels more like a job now than a passion. And I'm starting to think about what else I want to do with my life, because so 97 anyway, the thoughts about I need to think about how I'm going to transition this were already there. Then I had this injury, but because of the injury, and I was not happy with the way I looked, I was like, I want to get the surgery, I want to rehab, and I want to see if I can come back and redeem myself.
Yeah.
And get better than this, because it's not the way I want to really go out.
Yeah.
But I did all that process, and it became apparent as I started training that that left tricep was way weaker than the other side. And it was just,
yeah,
I couldn't bench press properly. It was all lopsided. And I'm like, okay, man, decision's been made for you. And I was very extreme about it. I was like, right, that's it. I'm stopping taking the juice and everything, and that's it, and I'm finished. I could have, like, I stopped. I wouldn't even guest pose or anything. I didn't want to, like, show anybody my physique because I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I could have, transitioned out and done a lot more guest appearances and stuff. Okay, I wouldn't be 100%, but I'd still be looking great. But I didn't want to do that. So it was a very extreme from one day to the next. And I had a lot of problems with that, really.
Did you ever consider, I mean, I know you said it was extreme, but looking back at it now, do you think you could have considered maybe training differently? Because I tore my tricep last year, and I know exactly what we went through. Like, I can't bench the same. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I can change my training, maybe I can still manage it. And some days I feel like that's not possible. So I kind of feel like what you're saying is, just cut it. That's enough. But do you think you should have, maybe not should have, but could have maybe tried something different?
In order to compete, you mean?
Yeah, like maybe train a different style.
No way, man. No, there's no way. Doesn't matter what training style I used. And don't forget that the size and the density and everything I had, the trademarks of my physique were from this heavy, high intense training. And maybe I could have done some lighter training and kind of maintained a physique that was good for guest appearances and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be able to achieve what I had achieved before, let alone try to improve on that. Absolutely 100% impossible. I knew that. So
then, because we often have this debate on the show. So you think the training style that got you to your best is a training style you're going to always have to use to keep that physique?
Not necessarily. Let's say I didn't have an injury.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what? I've been training heavy for this for years. I've got the size, I've got the density, and it's becoming risky now. And how much bigger and stronger can I get? And there must be a ceiling somewhere, and I'm pretty much approaching that.
Yeah.
Then I could have maybe switched to a safer training style with more reps and stuff like that. But that would be just to maintain.
Yeah.
I don't believe I could improve on that, but it would be okay to maintain. And I'm sure you know who Steve Weinberger is.
Yeah.
Who was, was a friend of mine. He used to train at his gym and everything. And he told me in 93, after I won in 93, like, man, listen, you need to ease up on this fucking crazy heavy training you're doing all the time, man, because no one can beat you looking like this. You just need to maintain. Why don't you cruise and maintain and to make your money, man? But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see if I could push it more, just a bit more, just a bit more. And, maybe I was already at the kind of peak of what was achievable for my size, but I didn't know that. I was in uncharted territory. I wanted to find out.
Yeah. I don't think people who don't have a passion for bodybuilding would understand that. Like, trying to take your physique to that ultimate limit is kind of what we're doing.
That's what it's about. Yeah. And, I felt that some other people, maybe like Sean, they were on the other, they were just kind of cruising with the training and getting the paydays. And I know he said he was passionate, he wanted to win the Olympia, but I don't see that he really pushed himself to that degree. He could have maybe got improved and get a bit bigger or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Going back to retirement, you said you stopped abruptly and it was extreme and you went through some things, and that's also something I'm looking at right now. So I'm curious, how did you deal with the abrupt loss of identity or change in lifestyle?
I mean, it was huge. I mean, first of all, very bad decision for me to just quit taking anabolics cold turkey. I just stopped.
Yeah.
And I tried to get some advice on that. There was nobody to advise me. I probably should have just, tapered down to a TRT dose or something, but it was not the knowledge around then. And I had this extreme mindset that either I'm doing it or I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I stopped. And, that in itself can cause depression. Retirement from your vocation and your passion in life can cause depression. So I had that, and somebody very close to me passed away, and my marriage was not in a good place. So all of it hit me at the same time. So I had a real hard time with depression for, I don't know, it was a year and a half. Plus, I was isolated in England.
Yeah.
Away from the sport. There was no internet then. So the internet is like internet, it keeps the whole community, and you keep in touch with people and you see what's going on. I was just there in England and not doing what I was doing anymore. That worked for me while I was competing, because I like to disappear and cut myself off a little bit. So yeah, it was a tough time, man, and it took me time to get through that, and to change my mindset to look what I've lost to look what I've gained.
Yeah.
Now I've gained, man, you've made some money, you've made your name. You can do whatever you want now. You can, I started traveling. I had a passion for wildlife. I was sponsoring mountain gorillas for years while I was competing and stuff like that. So I went some safaris to Africa and started traveling and doing things and saying, hey, you've earned this. You can relax a little bit and you can enjoy life, whereas before you couldn't. So maybe look at that instead of being upset that you've lost your vocation and a little bit of your identity. But you'll always be a Mr. Olympia, so you haven't really lost your identity. You've just lost that tunnel vision. And it's not just bodybuilders that struggle with this. It's a lot of people from sports suffer depression after they finish, because there's not that high, that endorphins and adrenaline that you get from having this mission that you're on, so to speak.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a void that you can't fill with anything else.
Yeah, but I realized I couldn't replace it. It just has to be looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah. So how did you deal with the depression? Did you take any medication? Did you just party a lot? Or did you just you just get through it?
Yeah, I mean, I got into the partying later on. I was like, screw it, man. Just have a good time. You've earned it. And
did it feel like you deserved it because you had been so like a soldier for so long? Absolutely.
I mean, it became probably I went into that too extreme as well. From one extreme to another. But that's the nature of the beast, my personality, I suppose. And now I feel like I got more balance. I got a middle ground. It took time to get that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So it's all been extremes, but now when I look at your social media, I feel like you kind of have a little bit of everything going on. You just seem happy.
Yeah, I mean, I like to train. I got a couple of injuries that mean I can't really train too heavy, but I do some functional training. I do some biking, mountain biking, and I do a bit of yoga, do a bit of everything, trying to be rounded and eat a good, healthy diet. And so exercise is always part of my life. If I didn't have the injuries I got, I'd probably be lifting a bit more weights in the gym. I would like to do that, but I can't, and I don't agonize over it. I just do something else.
So as a younger bodybuilder coming up and kind of watching you guys ahead of me, I see that you started your supplement company, and your supplement company is very successful. At what point in your career did you start the supplement company?
Wow, I've been involved in a supplement company since late 90s in different, different guises and different partners. Now I got DY Nutrition, and one of the most popular requests I get is when's DY Nutrition coming to United States? So
it's still not in the United States?
No. I mean, we were planning to do that, but this whole situation with the COVID and everything, I mean, it just screwed up a lot of businesses. We had a hard time, but we're still going. I mean, a lot of countries in Europe are still shut down.
Yeah.
So we're consolidating in Europe, and we're in the Middle East, and then we are planning to come to USA, but realistically, it'll probably be next year now.
Is a supplement company something you're able to sync your passion? It's like, where's the passion directed? Is it just traveling? Is it supplement company, or is it like?
Well, the supplement company is part of it, and I like to be involved. I'm involved in the product development and the marketing and the imaging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got some very good business partners that take care of the day-to-day business and the sales and stuff like that. That's not really my passion, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I like traveling. I like making appearances. I actually train some people in the gym, which I enjoy, but not a lot, but now and then I do. I still like to be in the gym, and sometimes training other people is a way of me kind of doing it myself, the things that I can't do, and I can give them the energy and give them the knowledge. And I got online training. It's called DY Academy as well, where I help people with their training, with their diet and so on, kind of like custom stuff. It's not like, you just pay for a diet and everyone gets the same thing. So I work with people on there, helping them reach their goals. Some of them are competitive bodybuilders, but majority are not. They're just people that want to get in shape and lose weight or gain weight.
Can I ask you, as somebody who's so militant and like at the level you reached, is it hard to, do you ever get frustrated training somebody in the gym because they just can't do what you want them to do? Does that enter into your mind or no?
Occasionally, but the majority of people that come to train with me or sign up to train with me, they know what it's about and they're there to give 100%. So most of the time that doesn't happen. But, as I say, I got this energy in the gym and I help the people with the energy and stuff. So if somebody's kind of like don't have the energy, doesn't have the passion or the interest, that's quite draining. But it really doesn't happen very often, because people that come to train with Dorian Yates, they normally, they know what they're coming for, and they're there to give it 100%.
I'm not going to keep you too much longer because we've been on for a little while, but I do have some pressing questions I have to ask you. Your video, your blood and guts video, is a video that me and my training partners used to watch every single day before training. Okay.
And there's literally thousands and thousands of people around the world that told me the same thing, which is the best feedback I could get, because that's what I made it for. That's why I made it like that.
Yeah. Your training partner, Leroy.
Yeah.
Was that at all staged, or is that how he sounds all the time?
I think he turned the volume up about 50% when the camera was in the room.
Well,
so yeah, he knew the camera was there.
Yeah.
So maybe he was playing up a little bit, but he was a great training partner. I do feel other people that train with me as well don't really get any credit because they were not there at that point. I trained with Leroy for 95, 96, 97. So for 3 years.
Yeah.
But there are other guys that train with me. I had another guy called Kenny Brown. He trained with me for about 5 years straight, and various other people. So, they were training partners, training buddies, and they came to train with me. So, I was in control. I called the shots. I was like, this is when we're going to train. This is what we're going to do. So it wasn't a coach trainee relationship at any point. I was the coach and the trainee.
Yeah.
In those days, we didn't have coaches. We had training buddies, just a guy that's a friend or a buddy that you got the same kind of goals.
Yeah.
And Leroy worked at the gym for me. And before we opened the gym, we used to train together. And but the whole thing, the planning of the training and my nutrition and all that stuff, I did it myself.
Did you?
There's no such thing as a coach then. I think the first person I spoke to that had coaches was Flex Wheeler, and I was asking him because I couldn't understand him. For me, bodybuilding was a very individual pursuit, so why would you have a coach? And he explained that he was from martial arts and had done whatever, I don't know. In America, you have coaches at school for football, for baseball, and all this stuff. So that was something I guess maybe the guys in the States were more used to.
Yeah. Actually want to get into coaches since you brought it up, but one last question about Leroy. Did you need somebody yelling at you like that? Even if you didn't turn it up, like on a right, did you need that kind of motivation, or was it just something the guys
Don't
did?
necessarily need the shouting so much, but I need somebody that's got energy.
Yeah.
So, and the shouting, I can take it or leave it. But you know, if somebody was silent all the time as well, I probably wouldn't like that. You know, you can encourage each other, and I would encourage him as well. But I wouldn't be so loud. But you know, key phrases at key times just to motivate and push the person. It's definitely helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to coaching, you don't think it's a valuable, or you don't understand it as a valuable tool?
I'm starting to understand it more. It was just foreign to me because I was attracted to bodybuilding because it was a very individual pursuit.
Sure.
And I guess my whole life from my childhood and everything, I felt like, man, people always letting me down. If I could control this shit, I'd do a much better job. So that was one of the reasons it appealed to me. I planned my own diet. I researched. I did my own diet. I did my own training. I planned my own steroid courses. Of course, I spoke to many people and read many things, but ultimately, I made the decision and I called the shots and was like, I'm responsible for the whole thing, win or lose, good or bad, then it's down to me. So that appealed to me. So the whole thing about coaches was like, wow, that wouldn't work for me, because if somebody said, do this, do that, I would be like, why and when and what? And, you know, I'd have to know everything. I couldn't just say, yes, boss, okay, and that's what I'm going to do and not think about it. But that's my personality.
I was just going to say,
coaches could be valuable. You know, I help and coach some people sometimes, but I feel like I have the qualifications to do that because I've been there and done it. So for sure, you know, I've heard stories about coaches out there that really hurt people and damage them. So you've got to be really careful if you're choosing a coach. Get somebody with a track history or somebody that's been there and done it themselves. I know there's coaches out there that weren't good competitive bodybuilders, but maybe they have a good analytical mind, and maybe they studied things and tried it out on many people and they get good results. But definitely, you know, be careful. And ultimately, you're on stage on your own, so you've got to take responsibility for that.
Yeah. Two last questions. Is there any pros that you got to train with that couldn't handle your training? Because I know there's video of Chris Cormier out there puking with you. Yeah. And there's video of, you know, Branch Warren came out to train with you, and I'm not sure who else, but I've always been intrigued by your training, and I'm like, I wonder if I could have ever handled it. Was there anybody that was ever able to come out and handle it with no issues?
Well, Chris handled it. It's not that he didn't handle it. He didn't run away or anything. He handled it. It was just a bit more intense than he was used to.
Yeah.
And his body wasn't ready for that. Went into kind of a little bit of a shock. So he was thrown up and everything. But he'll tell you he learned a lot from it. And it's not just, you know, going crazy and using heavy weights. It's about the tempo of the reps. It's about contracting. It's about controlling the negative. It's getting absolutely everything you can out of that set. It's about not creating any momentum. It's making each rep as hard as you possibly can and as controlled as you can. And I do camps. Haven't been able to do one last year because of the situation and not traveling and everything. But I've done camps in here in Spain. I've done them at Gold's Gym a few times, different places where people come to learn methods from me, and they get the master training certificate. Okay. So I had a lot of people come out, the serious guys, and they've watched my videos and they've studied the books and everything like that. But there's some little subtle things when you do it in person with me that they still didn't know. You know? So I got a huge passion for training and all the little things that go into it, and the equipment and machines and everything. It's kind of one of my passions of everything to do with bodybuilding. The gym and the training was my main passion.
So are you finicky about the machines you use? Like, do you
Yeah,
have a very like a huge preference to this handle or that handle or this machine or that machine?
absolutely. I mean, you know, is if you're a driver, I'm not really a driver. I drive cars, but I wouldn't say I'm a driver.
Yeah.
But let's say you're a driver, right? Every car's got four wheels.
Yeah.
Looks pretty much just the same to, you know, to uninitiated person.
Yeah.
But if you're a driver, you can get in that car and you can fucking feel the difference, man. You know, from one car to another.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with equipment and machines. And the people that make them, where they understand the biomechanics and how that angle is hitting the muscle correctly and it's not damaging the joint. Just to take one machine, right? Let's say a leg extension.
Yeah.
If you've got a leg extension that's really a great leg extension, it's constructed properly, like maybe the early flex leg extension or the early Nautilus leg extension, you can load that thing up and you can go to failure and you can go heavy and you won't feel it at all on your knees. You'll feel it in your quads.
Yeah.
You can go to a gym with another machine and I get on there and I'm just like, okay, like I'll just go really light today because this is pulling on my knees or it's pulling on one side more than the other. Yeah. And the mechanics are not correct. Or you've got, let's say, your early hammer strength leverage machines, great machines.
Yeah.
Then you got another company making machines that look pretty much the same, but when you get on there, it's not the same and it's not hitting the muscle in the right way. Yeah. So free weights are free weights. They are what they are. They work with the individual, which is great. But machines, there's a big variance in the machines, how effective they are and how potentially damaging they are or not.
What was my favorite machine manufacturer is probably Cybex. Do you have a favorite, like overall?
Overall, it's hard to say because there's not one manufacturer that makes all the ideal machines.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the early Nautilus machines for some stuff. The pullover is the best lat exercise you can do, bar none.
Yeah.
Early. They got a bicep and a tricep machine that's just insane. Really hits the muscle, and because of the cam, you get an even load through the whole range of motion.
Okay.
But a free weight, obviously, you got an easier and a harder part of the movement, and same with some machines. So I like some of the early Nautilus. I like the hammer strength is very good. Flex equipment, the original ones that were out there that's in Gold's Gym now. You know, you got all this equipment in Gold's Gym, all the leg presses, but nearly every pro will go on the old Flex leg press because it just feels better.
Yeah.
Right. Cybex leg press was the one I used in the old Temple Gym.
Yeah, I like that one.
Cybex is good because they made rehab machines as well for hospitals and rehab centers. So they've studied the mechanics of the muscle.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of other good brands out there that I'm just really not that familiar with.
I had no idea you were that particular about your equipment because you always struck me as a no bullshit. I don't give a shit. Just give me a weight. Let me pick it up. I'm very precise as well. I'm very picky about equipment. I mean, a free weight's a free weight. Yeah.
Is what it is, right? But machines, you know, you can get a terrible machine or you can get a great machine. And normally there's not one company that's got all great. Like, you know, even hammer strength, some of the machines, I don't think they're that great, but a lot of them are.
Yeah. Last question, Dorian, and I'll let you go. How would have Dorian Yates handled social media if they had it in the 90s? And could you have still been the shadow?
Well, I don't think it's possible with social media. It's almost like necessary now, even for myself, to inform people about what I'm doing, or if I'm putting events on, and you know, I've got a supplement company, all these things. It's a way to make people aware of that. So it's useful, but I don't know how you could be the shadow. It would be difficult. To do that. I suppose you could post training, but covered up like I used to, so people can see the training you're doing and you know, create a bit of mystique like that. I suppose you could do that.
Do you think it would have ruined bodybuilding for you though? Like that's kind of more what I'm getting at. Like you seem like you're very introverted and just involved in just your own training and your own betterment. And do you think if you would have had to do all that back then, do you think it kind of would have tarnished the sport a little bit or ruined it for you a little bit?
I don't know, because it wasn't around then, and I'm a different age now and a different place. So I see the benefits of it now. And then you had the magazines, which were in place of social media, perhaps. But with the magazines, you don't need to go and do it every day. You do a few shoots a year, and they use that all year round. So I really don't know, but I don't think I could have been the shadow with social media, because it's the opposite, right? You need to expose yourself on social media, and there's obviously people making money doing that and telling their story, and they can tell the story that they want to tell, where the magazines maybe, they tell the story they want to tell. So swings and roundabouts, man, up and down on everything. Nothing's good and nothing's bad. It's just how you're going to use it. So maybe I could have done, but it wasn't a strategy of me becoming the shadow. It was just that was my personality, and it turned into an image that people liked. They bought into it, and perhaps this scarcity of information and exposure made me more popular, because whenever I did an appearance in the United States or anywhere around the world, it was almost a guaranteed sellout for the promoter, because this is your chance, guys, to get to see this mysterious monster from England that lives underground and only comes out a couple of times a year. So I enjoyed it being like that.
Yeah. Well, Dorian, I appreciate you taking the time, man. It's seriously been an honor, and somebody I looked up to for a long time. I appreciate you taking the time and giving me some more of the backstory.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's been my pleasure. Congratulations on your 100th show there.
Thank you. I actually, you know what? I have a book in front of me here. I had a list of questions that I haven't got to. If we get to episode 200, do you think you come back on and answer some of these?
Absolutely, man. Okay. Absolutely. And I'm sure you'll get some more questions from this episode to add to those ones. Yeah,
of course. All right, Dorian, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the time.
All right, man. Thanks. And hi to all the viewers. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and like the video. And if you get a chance, check out the description for all the different links to all the different places you can find Hostile and myself. And lastly, check out hostile.com for our new line of supplements and all of our apparel and gear. Thanks again for watching.